City's most recognizable structures. 14 stories tall, with 3 designed facades, the most visually prominent feature is the slender clock tower, incorporating 4 large glass spaces with Roman numerals and a crenellated crown. Following the opening of the Queensboro Bridge in 1909, this section of Long Island City developed into an important commercial center, attracting a large concentration of factories and banks. When the Bank of the Manhattan Company was dedicated in May of 1927, it was an instant landmark, easily seen by thousands of people in passing cars and on the various elevated transit routes that converge at Queens Plaza. Founded in 1799, the Manhattan Company acquired the site through a merger with the Bank of Long Island in 1920. With nearly 40 branches in Queens by the end of the decade, this office tower served as a prominent reminder of the bank's far-reaching commitment to the citizens of the borough. Orell Smith was the building's architect. During his 50-year-long career, this Queens-born designer was responsible for numerous buildings in the metropolitan area, including a significant group of structures for the Manhattan Company. At the time of completion, this tan brick and limestone tower was reportedly 85% occupied, with many floors leased to tenants who had not been previously active in the area or in Queens. Smith's design received first prize from the Queens Chamber of Commerce for the borough's best business building of 1927. Despite alterations to the base in the 1960s, the neo-Gothic style elevations are mostly well preserved, including the small rooftop reliefs, which you see at the right, that incorporate images of the god Oceanus, a symbol of the bank, as well as the bank's initials. The proposed landmark is located on the north side of Queens Plaza, between Northern Boulevard and 41st Avenue. At the time of construction, it was built full on the lot and was flanked by 2 earlier buildings, both of which have been demolished. In the left slide, you can see the bank building to the left of it, which is to the west, and on the right, it's a little hard to see on the right side, there's a building that's actually here, that's set back slightly, made of wood. So you have the bank building here and the wood building there. The original footprint extended to the rear of the lot line and included the tower, as well as a 1-story section, which is a little difficult to see, but it is this section here, which appears in red on my computer screen, but not here. In the 1930s, the lot was expanded at the rear and to the east. In the 1960s, the owner acquired an additional lot to the east, that's this, and converted it to a parking lot. The west lot, that's this, on the left, was never part of the site. Because of this history, the research department recommends that the landmark site be the original footprint, which includes the tower and the 10-foot extension.
And commissioners, just briefly, just also to follow up what Matt said, the building historically had buildings on both sides. You can see them here on the left. And we have worked to ensure views of the 3 developed facades and as well as the viability of the landmark. We've worked very closely with the owners of the property to ensure that new development that occurs on the east and west lots will be no higher than the historic buildings that existed there previously. And that commitment by the owner is being memorialized in a restrictive declaration.
That's the same owner on both sides of the
Yes.
building?
And Mark, we would see the development when it's proposed?
No, they would be, the restrictive deck would limit the height and would also,
Because it's covered in the deck.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're negotiating certain details about the deck with them, and they've been very enthusiastic and cooperative about doing this.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt. Are there other questions? And I know there are plenty of speakers here, so why don't we take testimony and then comments after that. Brad Saxer?
Back there.
Good morning, Commissioner and Chair. My name is Brad Saxon. I'm one of the owners of the building, along with Kevin Maloney of Property Market Scoop and Cameron Hakeem of the Hakeem Organization. We support collectively Landmarks designation. We respect the building's place in Queens and Long Island City's history, and we appreciate its aesthetic beauty. We plan on restoring it to its once grandeur. And one, we make sure that all 4 clocks work at the same time. Hopefully, we'll have that synchronized. And we plan on maintaining it in a first-class way into the future, so our children and future generations will get to know it as their beacon of Long Island City. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christian Emmanuel.
My name is Christian Emanuel, and I am one of the around 90 to 100 members of the Queens Plaza community who actually dropped off a group RFE for this project about 1 year ago this week. And we all wanted to thank everyone at the LPC, every department that worked on this as a group for taking our request into consideration and working on it expediently when it needed to be, and showing us some great pictures and some great research that we hadn't discovered in our own way. And I just wanted to share a couple things. At the beginning of the building's construction in 1925, a local Queens newspaper, the Daily Star, wrote, "The Bank of Manhattan's new building for Queens Plaza will set the pace for Long Island City skyline. The building will tower far over the present buildings. The projection is that the Bridge Plaza will be the new Times Square of Queens. The 14-story building is to be graced with a 4-phase clock." And the story is the same 90 years later in the New York Times. A few weeks ago, Matt Chabin wrote, quote, "Now it will be truly overshadowed. A 915-foot skyscraper, the city's tallest outside of Manhattan, is about to sprout on its doorstep. Yet the connection is no coincidence. The clock tower is helping make this 77-story glassy giant possible." So in case you haven't heard, we will have a new neighbor in Queens Plaza. And I think one of the most satisfying conclusions that at least I came to during this process is that a structure that was once a symbol of new real estate development, of a blossoming Queens Plaza, of the Roaring '20s, gets to be the symbol of preservation-conscious real estate development in 2015. And so after all this, we're very thankful for supportive building owners and developers who see economic potential in what we see as not only visually pleasing, but also as historic and treasured. My parents have been tenants in the building for the last 10 years, and they've worked in Queens Plaza for the last 25. And it goes without saying, we've seen some changes, and I remember moving across the plaza 10 years ago into the clock tower, and it being the tallest building around. And I remember walking by the Long Island City Savings Bank and the Guarantee and Trust Bank, and the exposed cobblestones on 41st Avenue. And a lot has changed since then. But we're just so happy that the community came together, elected officials, nonprofits, friends, neighbors, and everyone supported us for the last year, and including the developer, and we're very happy about that. And it just shows that there is a real consciousness for this in Queens, and as we celebrate the 50th anniversary, we're happy to be a part of this, and we're thrilled that we're hoping that action will be taken today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Daniel Allen?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Dan Allen, and I have gone by this clock tower probably every workday for about a quarter century, and have a great deal of affection for this building. But I want to take you back to a nice spring morning in the 1930s, and you're a Long Island Railroad commuter, and you're coming in worried about being late for a meeting. First, you look out the left-hand window of your train, and you see the magnificent clock tower of the Bulova Watch Factory in Woodside. Then, if you're lucky and someone is not sitting across from you, you can look out the right-hand side window about maybe 4 minutes later and see the magnificent Nardin Fragrance Factory clock which Elliot Walensky described as being sculpted out of ice cream. A fantastic modern building. Now, if everything goes well, and it doesn't always on Long Island Railroad, you look out the window and you see this magnificent building. And if everything is good and it's 10 minutes before the hour, within the very near future, you're rising into the glorious, airy space of McKim, Reed & White's Pennsylvania Station. So let's start in Woodside. The Boulevard Watch Factory tower was taken down and the building coated in stucco and ironically renamed the Queen's Landmark. The Narden Fragrance Factory, originally the Knickerbocker Laundry Building, has been subsumed into a massive mega church and painted black. The clock is gone. Pennsylvania Station, I guess you know the story. This clock is still there, so let's keep it there. Do something really wonderful on this spring morning and designate this building. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Hall?
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Hall. I'm speaking to you this morning on behalf of Plus Partners, a collaboration between myself and Matthew Chrislip that draws on our combined experience in architectural theory and multidisciplinary design. Our hybrid practice bridges studio work and advocacy and allows us to focus variously on designing, preserving, and catalyzing the development of environments and places. In April of 2014, Plus Partners submitted to the Commission a request for evaluation for the Bank of Manhattan building at 2927 Queens Plaza North. In the past year of campaigning on behalf of Merrill Smith's iconic clock tower, Plus Partners has been impressed by the unreserved enthusiasm and strong demonstration of support from so many community members and New Yorkers. This beloved building occupies a unique place in the architectural history of the borough. Its 14 stories of brick and limestone rising higher than any other structure in the borough until 1990. The clock tower also occupies a special territory in the collective memory of New York City. Since 1927, the tower and its monumental clock have welcomed commuters and residents alike into the city, serving as a familiar landmark that they see each day from their passing trains. The campaign to see the clock tower receive designation has gained the official support of many community leaders, civic groups, and local institutions, including New York City Council Majority Leader Jimmy Van Bramer, Historic Districts Council, Queens Community Board 1, Dutch Kills Civic Association, Hunters Point Civic Association, Queens Historical Society, and the Sculpture Center. The clock tower has also won the support of the nonprofit organization Save America's Clocks. More specifically, it has found a champion in Forrest Markowitz. Forrest, along with his colleague Marvin Schneider, has tended to some of New York City's most important large-scale and public clocks. After a brief initial inspection of the Long Island City clock, Forrest noted that the clock is a fine example of an early electrified clock tower, having been built at a pivotal moment in the transition of tower clocks from mechanical to electric movements. In his examination of the clock, Forrest found that it is in reparable condition and that restoring it to a fully functioning state could be done without diminishing its historic importance. In Forrest's own words, the clock would be an asset to any community. Most significantly, the Long Island City Clock Tower has won the support of over 1,500 community members who have signed their names to an online petition started by Plus Partners 6 months ago. As of this morning, 1,596 names have been added to the petition, which is accompanied by 20 pages of comments written by individual signers. These comments demonstrate their deep interest in the clock tower and their many reasons for supporting its designation. For these countless individuals, the clock tower is an architectural gem, an emblem of New York City's history, and a monument symbolizing the shared values of Long Island City's embedded communities. Plus Partner is pleased to add its name alongside the thousands of others who attest to the architectural and cultural significance of the Long Island City Clock Tower, and we gladly recommend it for designation as an individual landmark in New York City. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Christabel Gupp.
Christabel Goff for the Society for the Architecture of the City. Over time, at hearings, it can become tiresome when people quote the preamble of the Landmarks Law at length, but the law's consideration of the people of the city and what they should not unnecessarily lose is still telling. Every day, people travel and their trajectory is marked by certain structures, like this building, the clock tower at Queens Plaza, that tell you you are approaching, you are there. The Rock of Gibraltar tells you you are passing the Straits. The Manhattan skyline tells the passenger that New York is imminent. And coming and going, Those things have a standing even beyond what they are as a marker. Similarly, from the tracks, we have all seen the Clock Tower building, an imposing structure and one that links two boroughs. Near to a warehouse that once housed one of Broadway's major theatrical costume purveyors, Brooks Eves, to a business that supplied America with cast garden ornaments, the Clock Tower dates from an era when Long Island City was a place for businesses seeking a low-rent warehouse to supply the metropolis and beyond. Now that Long Island City is rising as a condominium site, the Clock Tower has become a link to the past, what is fast becoming an architectural memory of having been the tallest building in its sphere. The new Long Island City needs to keep an historic center, and the Clock Tower building, if it survives, could be that center. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Zay?
Good morning. Barbara Zay of the Historic Districts Council. HDC is happy to support the designation of the former Bank of Manhattan building, affectionately known by many as the Clock Tower building, in Queens Plaza, Long Island City. For just over a year, HDC has been in touch with advocates and community members in Long Island City, some of whom we've heard from today, who have been working hard to build community and political support for the protection of this beloved building. As a result of that effort, HDC named Long Island City one of its 2015 Six to Celebrate neighborhoods, and advocates are currently working to survey and document other buildings that are worthy of protection in the neighborhood. The Clock Tower building, designed by Morrell Smith in the neo-Gothic style, was built to be a landmark. The impressive structure was constructed in 1926 through 27 for a high-profile company, the Bank of Manhattan, as its Queens Plaza branch. The form of Smith's Tower is decidedly modern, while its details reference historical styles. The combination of the two gives the building its powerful presence on the plaza. Its strong verticality and tapered crown are reminiscent of other contiguous towers, such as Raymond Hood's 1924 Tribune Tower in Chicago, a neo-Gothic skyscraper that also features a smaller setback tower above its very tall shaft. Homage to history is found in the building's details, such as the bracketed cornice and balcony separating the base and shaft, and most overtly its crenellated roof lines. The top of the tower features arched window openings and large clock faces, which lend a strong civic nature to the building and provide its neighborhood identity. Queens Plaza was built in 1909 as a commercial center and transportation hub connecting the Queensboro Bridge and Queens Boulevard. From the 1920s to the 1940s, the plaza was lined with factories and warehouses. After years of neglect, Queens Plaza has recently been renovated and its perimeter is being redeveloped. The Clock Tower building's iconic contribution to the skyline of Long Island City, a neighborhood sorely lacking in designated landmarks, deserves protection to ensure that it continues to provide a connection to the plaza's history and a sense of stability in an ever-changing area. The formal and legal acknowledgement of what is already considered to be a Queens landmark will have a lasting impact on the future of this historic thoroughfare and meeting place. In 2010, the Commission designated the modern-style Jamaica Savings Bank at 146 through 21 Jamaica Avenue, another structure by Morrell Smith. The protection of the Clock Tower building would reinforce both the connection between the two structures and Smith's legacy in Queens. HDC wishes to thank the LPC staff for bringing their swift attention to this worthy structure and urges the Commission to support its designation. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Are there any more speakers on this item? Any more speakers? All right. Do commissioners have any questions or comments? Well, I'm very pleased that we've had this hearing, and we've got so much support. We also received a petition of, I think, 250 to 300 signatures in support of this designation. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say it's a terrific landmark for Queens, and I think it's eminently worthy. And it's rare that we have clock towers that we can landmark as well as the building itself and its history. So, very much in favor of it.
Thank you. Yes, Wellington.
Yes, I remember fondly having spent many years going to the city planning in this building, and this is really, what has not been mentioned is really, this is where the train turns. And this is highly visible, so there's a wraparound. It's not just from one dimensional, so I'm glad it's come to this.
Yes, Michael.
I'd just like to thank the owners for being visionaries and understanding the value of historic preservation in this city. Thank you.
Yes, I say definitely we should second that. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Any other comments?
I also think
yes.
that the Mark's description of the use of the title, the deed restrictions is a great compromise and kind of way to preserve the building, preserve the views of the building. That it's the first time I'm hearing about it in a situation like this, and I think it's something we should think about as we go forward.
Very good point, Michael. All right, if any other comments? All right, so we can close the hearing, and we can set the designation date for May 12th. Thank you.
Great.